Okay, let's now study in details how does the while loop actually function. So I will create here a very simple while loop where I'm going round that loop several times, and then we will have a look at what happens in the while loop and its condition part. So as you probably already learned, the general syntax of a while loop is constructing from the keyword while, and then we have the condition part, which takes some Boolean type expression. So that Boolean type means an expression that can take values of true or false and nothing else. And then of course we have the code block, in which we write that code that we wish to be repeated several times. And let's first start from this condition part. So what should be put here? In here we will write any kind of expression that will control the number of loops, number of times this while loop will go round. And quite often it is something like an inequality, some test that tests if a number is less than another number, or if a number is more than another number. But sometimes it may also be an inequality, so we are testing if two identities are different, or we could test if the two identities are similar, have the same value. Okay, in this case we could demonstrate this while loop with a loop that goes round n times, and n could be 5, for example. So for that I here first declare an integer type variable whose name is I, and what is its function is that it will be counting the number of times the loop goes round. So therefore the purpose of this variable is that it increases by one value on every round of the while loop. So that's why I will write here inside the while loop a statement where the value of I is increased by 1. So now on every round this line of code will be executed, and that will increase the I's value. Then I will need here another variable, or rather a constant, that will perform as a limiting criteria for the I's growth. So that will say how far the I is let to increase. And I will name this max rounds. And like I said, so let's make it to value 5. So now the question: what should I put here in the while loop condition part? It should be something that will test if the loop has already gone through 5 times. So if that's the case, then this expression should get value false. Otherwise, it should get value true. And one feasible condition for that would be this. So testing if I is less than max rounds would be feasible, because on every round I will grow by 1, and after it's grown 5 times, then it naturally will reach this constant value max rounds, which is 5. Okay, and then just to make sure we know what happens here, I will output the value of I on every round. Let's do it so that I put some extra info to it. And then after this loop I will output something that tells me that now we are done. So loop ended, and one more read line here just to make sure that we do not miss all this fancy output. And now we can try what happens when we run this program. So clicking here, and it all happened so fast, so you didn't have time to see what happened during the different rounds. But this is what what is the final result from all the outputs of this program. So I get 5 times output on screen, the word round, and then the numbers from 1 to 5. So it means on every different round I get the value of I output, and of course while it is increasing on every round, that's why it is also growing here. So, but let's see what happens if I put here a breakpoint, so we can follow more closely what happens inside the while loop. So I will now rerun the same code with this breakpoint, and then I will execute the code line by line, so we have time to see what happens to different variables and what happens to this Boolean type expression here. So I will start, and now as you can see the execution is stopped here on this row, so it's painted yellow. It means we are waiting here for the programmer to run the code forward. Here below you can see the values of different variables. You can also see the values of different variables if you bring the mouse on top of them here on the code. So we can see that the I, its value is still 0, the initial value, and of course max rounds is always 5. It will never change its value. And from these controls here I can run my code line by line. So I will use the step over, so which will go one line forward, and I could use F10 also, F10 button also, to do the same thing here. So running forward one step, I will get here. Now I'm not yet executed this line, so value of I is still 0. We can see it if I bring my mouse here. But if I go one step forward, now I has increased by 1, so now its value is 1. And now of course this output is being generated on the screen. So far my screen looks like this. There is no output yet, but when I go one step forward, then I will see that output here appearing on my screen. Okay, what happens next is that we are now here in the end of the while loop, and we already done one round. And what happens next? We will again go to this same expression here, and now pay attention to what happens here. Actually, this same thing happened also in the first round, namely this comparison is being made now. So it is being tested if I is less than max rounds. Well, what is the value is I is 1, and value of max rounds is 5. So is I less than max rounds? Interpreted is 1 less than 5. Well, the answer is yes, so that means this expression is true, and that also means that we will go again inside the while loop to do those lines that have been written there. Okay, these two lines are being repeated again, and now one more time this comparison is being made here. Is I less than max rounds? The value of I is now 2, value of max rounds is still 5, so it is true, and that means we will go one more run. And this goes on until I will grow to first 4, so now its value is 4, and after this step it gets value 5. So this, of course, this line here is being executed, and now the output on my screen looks like this. So I have gone all the 5 rounds. And what happens next with when I go one more time to this expression here? So now I has value of 5. Max rounds is also 5. So is 5 less than 5? No, it is not. So now this expression gets value false. And that means the loop will end because there is no longer reason to continue. And of course, well, what does the output now look? It looks like this. I managed to output all these 5 values, 5 rounds, and then the word loop ended here.